Welcome back to Blue Collar Sports, everyone. Thank you for staying with us through that break as we enter segment number 5. It is 3:20 down here in the Pulse Radio studio at Boise State University. If you guys are wondering who's this guy sitting next to me right now, that is a good friend of mine, Paul Michael Pennington. Decided to stop by. He is in town, so stop by, check it out, and we'll get him on later on today a little bit. But he's just here hanging out with us. That's who you see if you're watching us through Twitter. But it's been a great show. It is our 100th show so far.
Yeah, it's been fantastic so far. We're getting personal. We're getting into questions. That was our last segment with About Us. Seth had some great questions for me. I had great questions for him. Kind of get to know each other, and you guys know who we are outside of the show. And so that was good. And now we're going to keep that going with another segment we've kind of done before. So throwing it back, I believe it was our 50th show, possibly. We had our Mount Rushmore of athletes. And
Top 4 favorite athletes.
Top 4 favorite athletes of all time. So this segment's going to be pretty similar to that, but in a different way. We got our favorite athletes from 3 different eras. So we're both 21 years old, and so we're going to split it up in 3 different time ranges. So we split up, obviously, with 0 to 7 years old, very young, and then 8 to 14 in the middle, and then 15 to 21. Who's our favorite athlete probably right now would be the winner for that one. So we split it up in 3 different eras, and we're going to talk about who our favorite athlete was during those 3 time ranges. And so it's a little different than our Mount Rushmore, but I don't know. We'll see about yours. But for me, similar athletes.
I think all 3 guys.
And so
all 3 of these guys were all mine.
All 3 of mine were the same as well. So very similar to that, but in a different way.
So again, we're going to start with ages 0 to 7. Obviously, we were the younger here, so I didn't know a whole lot. But looking back on it, and I talked a little about when we went over our favorite sports franchises, obviously, in my number 1. And it's because of this guy that started all out for me from 0 to 7. It was definitely Ken Griffey Jr. By far and away favorite baseball player of all time. I mean, Derek Jeter's up there, but Ken Griffey Jr., he is the Seattle Mariners' best swing all time in baseball, I will say that. He did it the right way. He reminds me a lot of this era's Mike Trout. And the fact that he just did everything. He was fast, hit for a lot of power, won a home run derby as well. Mike Trout, has he participated in one? I don't think he's participating, but just a guy that does it all. His fielding, you've seen all the incredible catches he does. He was definitely on my Mount Rushmore of athletes, but he's my favorite baseball player of all time. Definitely one of my favorite athletes of all time.
So do you believe that is why you are a big Seattle Mariner fan, is because of Ken Griffey in his early years?
It was definitely, being young, but a lot of it's too because they're from Seattle,
right? Just
the Northwest team. But the fact that when I was young and I was trying to find a baseball team, the fact that Ken Griffey was there, and that was the last time the Mariners were really good at baseball. But the fact that he was there definitely helped to the situation. And so at the younger age, when I was just getting into sports, Ken Griffey was what baseball was to me.
Absolutely great pick there. I'll start it off with my 0 to 7 era. It's hard to go back that long ago and think who you really liked back then. And so a couple things come to mind. I just remember the Patriots being dominant, and they're still dominant somehow. So I remember that. But
you better not be a Patriot.
I'm not a Patriot. I wish I was probably, but I'm going way back. And when I was growing up, big NASCAR fan actually. So he was on my Mount Rushmore. That was Dale Earnhardt Jr., the most popular NASCAR driver of all time. He was actually my guy way back then as a kid. I grew up watching that, and I have little race cars that I made my own racetracks going with, like the Hot Wheels. So I've always been a car fan, and he was my favorite athlete behind the wheel. And yes, I do consider them athletes, I'll say that. But growing up, starting to get into the other sports like basketball, football, and baseball, that was my first sport that I really remember watching was NASCAR, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the man back then.
That surprised me. I do remember he was on your Mount Rushmore of athletes, though. Are you still a NASCAR fan? Do you follow NASCAR?
I do.
Really?
Not as much as I used to, but I watch it here and now. Dale Jr. does not race anymore. He is retired, so I don't have a driver. I don't think right now.
I was watching a Joe Rogan podcast, and we talked about a little bit with Dan Bilzerian. Great podcast. 3 hours on. It's on YouTube though, but definitely check it out. Great podcast. Joe Rogan, he does great stuff. But they were talking about NASCAR and they had a very, very funny take on it. But they were talking about how underrated these guys are. They don't get the
really
attention.
Are.
In the South, they get a lot of attention, but especially being up here in the Northwest, no one really pays attention to NASCAR. So it's cool to see you got a NASCAR guy on there.
And now that's my early years. Now let's hear, Seth, who was your favorite athlete between 8 and 14 years old?
Yeah, I don't know how much you're going to like this one, but between 8 and 14, definitely the Black Mamba, Kobe Bryant. We've had lots of debates. He's the greatest basketball player of my lifetime. I'll say that till,
Not 24
till
right
the
here.
day I die. He's the greatest basketball player I've ever seen. During my, I mean, Jordan's greatest of all time, obviously, but I think Kobe, in terms, I've talked about it a little bit last segment, but in terms of mindset and perspective, no one does it better than Kobe Bryant. I was watching a podcast with him the other night as well, and he talked about when he first joined the Los Angeles Lakers, when he was drafted. He was drafted by the Hornets, I believe.
Yeah,
they
was the
traded
Hornets.
him draft night, so he ended up going to the Lakers. But he talked about when he first got there, he thought everyone lived and breathed basketball because that's what he did growing up, lived and breathed basketball. He was drafted out of high school. And he got there and he said, guys, weren't necessarily even focused on basketball. They're focused more about the money. And that's when he realized he was going to be one of the greatest of all time. And that's that perspective. He was all about basketball, gave his focus, his attention, everything to it, his competitive. So you look at Kobe, he was not the best shooter. He's a good shooter, but there was a lot of guys that could shoot it better than he could. He was not the biggest 6'5", 6'6", he was tall, but he wasn't the biggest guy, most physical, demanding guy. Athleticism, he was athletic, but he wasn't the most athletic guy. But he did everything with so much focus, so much detail. His footwork, his timing, everything was perfect. He mastered it. That's why Kobe Bryant, I really think, was my favorite athlete between the middle years when I really started getting into basketball.
Yeah, it's a very good thing. It's not that I don't like Kobe Bryant. I think he's really good. I just think there's a couple players that might be a little bit better than him that you don't believe so. I actually really like the number 8 Kobe with Shaquille O'Neal. We've talked about that team a little bit.
Kobe.
Talked about Shaq. I really like those teams. And funny story, I don't think we've ever talked about this, but I have met Kobe Bryant. I have his autograph.
I don't think you've ever told me that.
So this is a long time ago. So we were at Fashion Island in Newport Beach. It's pretty close to L.A. And Kobe Bryant was there, and we didn't have anything for him to sign. But my sister was there, and she has a Build-A-Bear. And we didn't want him to sign anything on the Build-A-Bear, but we had the Build-A-Bear's underwear. So we went up to Kobe Bryant, and he signed the Build-A-Bear underwear.
How have you never told me this story?
I don't know why. I don't know how I haven't. I just thought of it right now. And it actually is at home in Bakersfield in our safe. It is Kobe Bryant's signature, and I have met him on Build-A-Bear underwear. That's correct.
How was he?
He was really cool. It was a long time ago. I was very young. This might have been when Shaq was there, when they were winning titles. But he was really cool. I remember
he was winning titles without Shaq too.
I just remember staring way up at him. He was really tall, and it was really cool to see him. But I'm surprised I haven't told you that before.
I know that shocks me. I asked you about your favorite childhood memory last segment. That would have been mine for sure.
If that was LeBron, it'd be mine. But we'll move on to my second era favorite athlete. It's my only football player on here, and probably my favorite football player, and that is Tim Tebow. In the Florida days, that is my favorite player during 8 to 14 years old. He won national championships in 06 and 08. I was 9 and 11 years old, so that fits that time range. And just watching him out Florida was what I liked. And I just like how he carried himself on and off the field. I never saw a leader like that in football before. And that was when I really got into college football, I believe. And he really grew my love for football. And so I really loved Tim Tebow, and I followed him into the NFL, of course. And, I don't think he got a fair shot at all times in the NFL, but Tim Tebow was my favorite athlete during those years.
Yeah, Tebow, that's a great pick there. We've talked a lot about Tim Tebow on this show. And I want to ask you, do you think he'll ever swing in the MLB? Do you think he'll ever take an at-bat in the MLB?
No, his time has passed.
Not even to sell tickets?
I honestly, I remember when he was with the Mets, I would have brought him up because nobody was going to games. You sell tickets, and he's there
It's a big stadium
in baseball. So I would have brought him up, but I think the time has passed. He should give up baseball and just be an announcer for the SEC network like he does right now.
Yeah, he does great stuff announcing. His takes on game day are always very interesting as well. Now we get to the most recent years between ages 15 and 21, but this goes for probably my favorite athlete of all time. I mean, I have plenty more on him later on in the show today, too, as well. That is Tiger Woods, the resurgence of Tiger Woods. Obviously, he made mistakes. I know that. I went through all that. But between that and the back surgeries, and then to come back, seeing him win last year at the end of the year, last PGA tournament to wrap up the FedEx Cup, seeing him win that tournament was incredible. I'm going to save a lot of details about Tiger Woods for next segment, but this guy, by far away, I think my favorite athlete of all time, the most dominant athlete of all time, which is what we're going to get to in a little bit. But Tiger Woods, he could fit all three of these. He first became a pro in 1996, so he really could fit any of these ages. He's been around ever since I've really been watching sports, but he is golf. He's what makes golf fun, and I love Tiger Woods.
Yeah, that kind of sets us up for our next segment. That's our debate, most dominant athlete of all time.
I'm guessing your guys.
And so his pick for his favorite athlete right now is against my pick for my favorite athlete right now. And my favorite athlete right now from 15 to 21 is LeBron James. I'm wearing the jersey right now. I know both of you, it looks like you're both huge fans of the King. I compared him to the Lion King and Mufasa earlier in the show. His two sons are both Simbas. And so LeBron James is my favorite athlete right now, obviously. He's won 3 titles, 12, 13, and 2016. I was 15, 16, and 19 years old. He'll win another one next year when I'm 22.
Next year?
Next year.
You're going to say Lakers win it next year?
Yeah, with Clay and Kawhi. I've said it before. That's what's going to happen. But LeBron James is the best athlete right now, most dominant, which we'll get to in a little bit. And he's been my favorite. I think you've all have seen that from the show. I know me and Seth get into it, of course, but he's my favorite athlete right now. I got all his jerseys from every team. And one of my other childhood memories that I could have threw it in there was going to see LeBron James for the first time. He was on the Miami Heat. He went to go play the Los Angeles Clippers. It was a Friday night NBA on ESPN game. And so that was a really good game with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. I see both of you shaking your heads. That was a great time.
LeBron fans.
Seeing LeBron on Christmas Day against the Warriors has been fantastic when he was with Cleveland. Seeing him, I believe I went to a finals game with when he was with Cleveland against the Warriors. And so, LeBron James has just been following him. I'm following him until his career is over, and he's going to do great stuff. But I have more on him later, just like you have on Tiger Woods.
I will say I agree with you in that I've been following him ever since he started, but much different perspective of LeBron James, and I'm sure you guys know if you've tuned into this show before. But we talked about our Mount Rushmore, our top 4 athletes. I believe all 3 of those guys were on yours.
They were.
Who else would you throw in there?
So, throwing it back, my Mount Rushmore has not changed, and my other favorite athlete is actually, I don't know if you even consider him an athlete, but that is Travis Pastrana. I've talked about him a little bit. We talked about earlier in the show how I kind of like the extreme sports and doing outdoor stuff, and he definitely embodies that. He does anything crazy. He's nearly killed himself numerous times, and so I'm really big fan of him and what he does. I'll probably name my son Travis after him. I think I will, actually.
Not LeBron?
Unfortunately, I will not name my son LeBron. Maybe Bronny or Bryce.
Bryce Maximus. No, that's a great pick. Have you ever seen Nitro Circus?
Of course, not live, but I've seen it. I've seen the shows. Yes, of course.
I just watched that movie the other night. Keaton, if you're listening to this, good friend Keaton, he showed that to me. But
I'll be on there.
I'd never seen that before. I didn't even know Travis Pastrana was even going to be on there. But
he does. That is his thing.
Yeah.
He runs that show. They travel to city and put on a show like that. And that's if I was good enough at this sports, I would definitely be on there. But I think that's a little too dangerous for me.
Yeah, I saw him ride dirt bike across a big pool. A pretty crazy show. Definitely check it out. It's on Netflix. If you haven't seen the movie. For my last one, I can't remember exactly who I had. I know it's definitely between a couple guys. Shout out to Rip Hamilton. He's my favorite basketball player of all time from the Pistons. Derek Jeter, I think, definitely would be a good pick for me.
I think Derek was in yours.
I think it was Derek Jeter. Also honorable mention Roger Federer. Talk about a guy that does it the right way. Roger's still going strong too. He would definitely have there, but I'm pretty sure I'd have to go Derek Jeter.
Yeah, Derek Jeter I think was your pick. I remember talking about that. I think probably the best baseball player I've ever seen, and I don't know why he's not in the conversation for the greatest of all time in baseball. He just reminds me of Tom Brady in football, so I think that definitely was your pick.
I'm pretty sure it was, but that wraps up our favorite athletes segment, our segment number 5 of our 100th show ever. We got one more segment for you guys, so we're going to have to break right now. Stay tuned. Of course, we will wrap it up with our debate, and you will hear from the man sitting next to me right here, Paul Pennington. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.